Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, come kick it with us. We do this every single week. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Links to Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, all available in the show notes of this episode. So definitely check those out. I am your host, Dito DeCespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
Feeling fantastic, buddy. NWSL is back. That's a good feeling. The Euros are going on in men's football, if anybody is interested in that.
Before you hit that,
interested in that.
My apologies. I forgot.
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there putting in the work. We appreciate you.
Look at that.
Father's Day this weekend, Pride Month. We're definitely celebrating. So, as you were, I apologize. I'm gonna crack the beer with you this weekend.
No worries. Happy Father's Day. Yeah, happy Father's Day to you, buddy. Oh, delicious. You know, it has to be done. Every once in a while, you got to celebrate the dads. Not too often, but you know, once in a while. We get some recognition.
I'll take it. One day out of the year. I never heard anybody. Sounds about right.
That's the new podcast. It's about the plight of men and all of our struggles. See how long that one lasts.
Don't hold your breath. Where do you want to get started this week, Mr. Grant Engel?
Well, I actually just came home from Seattle Reign 0, Portland Thorns 0 at Lumen Field, the Cascadia Derby up here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Nice mix of some serious cloud cover, and then the sun came out. Pretty gorgeous P&W day up here. The football, pretty good, I think. For a 0-0 match, there was some pretty open play in the middle of the field. But, buddy, when you have no Sophia Smith, when you have no Olivia Moultrie, and when you have no Sam Coffey on the Portland Thorns kind of getting the attack started from the defensive midfield, it was a struggle to score out there today.
Just knocking it around. And those 0-0s were definitely going around this weekend. So you guys weren't the only ones hit by that bug. What'd you see in the match? Oh, before we get to the match, CBS Sports. I think we've got to put a ticket into the old tech department because there was apparently no way to watch the first half of this match. I went Paramount Plus. I went CBS Sports app, opened up the old laptop. They even ran a graphic. So I think one of the women's golf tournaments ran a little long, and they ran a graphic on the golf tournament. It said, if you want to watch Reign Thorns, head over to CBS Sports app or cbssports.com. Did both those things. Couldn't find the match. I would click on the match, the little match thumbnail, and it would take me to said golf tournament. So no clue what happened in the first half. You're going to have to fill me in. We'll start there. Suffice it to say, NWSL coverage still very much evolving, very much growing. A lot of room for improvement there. We'll talk about that one later.
Okay. I heard like some grumblings in the press box a little bit, but obviously we're like sitting there watching the match. So, and the CCTV is on in the press box. I did think it was odd though that it was the CCTV feed in the press box, and then in the second half, I noticed it had the CBS logo on the top. So apparently they switched over at that point. Okay, good to know. Real bummer. Yeah, CBS. Let's maybe get that figured out.
Yeah. So catch us all up. Catch us all up on the first half. What we missed.
So yeah, like I mentioned, like in the first half, especially in like the first 6 minutes, it was like pretty open, like up and down the field. There's some kind of chances. There was one point where Portland was on a counter, and kind of as it was happening, and obviously no disrespect to, I mean, Portland still had Jessie Fleming, Christine Sinclair out there. Janine Becky was out there. I thought she played pretty well today. But there was a couple of points where I was just like, glad Sophia Smith is not on that breakaway. If I were a Seattle Reign supporter, obviously. In the press box, it's nothing but a neutral journalist.
Absolutely.
But like you said, I mean, similar to the second half, they're kind of just knocking the ball around up and down the field. There were a couple moments in the first half, though, that were a little scary for the Reign, where they had some pretty cheap giveaways in their attacking half. But again, with no Smith and no Moultrie out there, they kind of died on the vine a little bit. I will say, though, credit to Seattle's defense. So they played a back four of Ryan Brown, Lou Barnes, Phoebe McLaren, and Sofia Huerta. And I thought they all really handled themselves extremely well. With the exception of a moment, and every player is going to have this, but there was a moment in the first half where the ball is coming in to the box from Portland, and Sofia Huerta just pretty much just like gets her left foot on it. I think it was her left foot, and just kind of like leaves it, thinking that Phoebe McLaren is going to have an easy clearance, or maybe Claudia Dickey is just going to come and just like gobble it up. It looked more like Huerta was leaving the ball to try to get an assist. And she was basically leaving it for Isabella Diaquila for Portland Thorns. But then McLaren just like flew in there and basically was able to clean up the mess. But it was almost a real howler from Huerta, which you don't see very often from her, obviously.
Yeah, actually, Leanne Sanderson on the show last week was talking to us about the rain kind of giving away the ball far too cheaply, I think was the phrase that she used.
Yeah, absolutely. There was definitely more of that in the first half. But I did mention Claudia Dickey by name. So she's back from injury, playing in goal. More on her in a little bit. I thought Laura Harvey said some interesting things in the press conference. But also Quinn, the Canadian defensive midfielder, first match back since they injured their knee on April 27th over in North Carolina. Quinn played the entire first half, 45 minutes, came off at halftime, looked good out there. I think a player like Quinn, when poise is a hallmark of your game, I kind of wonder this. I'm curious your thoughts on it. When like poise and calmness is like the biggest part of your game, I wonder if it's almost a little easier to come back from a little bit of a layoff, because it's not like you're going to totally lose that.
Yeah, not going to be rattled. And I think there's kind of secondary effects to that kind of spread across the team.
Mm-hmm.
So now the general level of tension tamped down a couple notches. Yep. And I think you could just get to the football at that point. Great to see them back on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. So I ended up chatting with our pal, Laura Harvey, future friend of the show, who I'm just going to put it on wax now. I will eventually try to get on this program. Because, I mean, if we're out here getting Leanne Sanderson and Asil Tufayli on the show, Cam Pope, Chris Sharples, I mean, we got some hitters coming on here. It's about time I try to ask Laura Harvey to come on.
Not to mention the Olympics coming up, buddy. Oh, man, that slate. We're going to have some guests to preview the Olympics. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Apologies for the interjection.
No, it's an important one. I appreciate that.
Let's get back to you holding Laura Harvey's feet to the fire in the way that only Grant from the ICC can do.
Of course. Real Woodward and Bernstein work I'm doing over here in terms of journalism. Around the 60th minute, some kind of switch was flipped where Jess Fishlock just decided, oh, wait a minute, the middle of the defense is open for Portland, and Jordan Huitema was streaking up the middle. And Jess Fishlock just started turning on the Patrick Mahomes laser beams, and she's just firing shots over the top, or pardon me, not shots, but just firing passes over the top, including that one in the 63rd minute that I thought Huitema was going to have a real look going in on goal with.
Yep.
Easy for me to say sitting up in the press box. I thought Huitema went down a little easy on the challenge. I thought maybe she was a little more looking for a foul than looking to like finish strong there. But that started to open up, and Seattle's attack looked pretty threatening throughout the majority of the second half. But they just have these long stretches where they can't find the quality to either connect the last pass or even wrangle the last pass or get a good shot on goal. And that's what's been really the bugaboo for their offense this entire season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I obviously caught the second half, and it did look like Seattle was more likely to score.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't think the quality was there. I pulled some numbers that I thought were interesting. So obviously, Bay FC and Utah, we're recording this Sunday night. They're about to kick off in about half an hour. So that could change things. But coming into this week, we had been averaging 19 plus goals per match week across the 7 matches. 2, almost 3 goals per match on average. This week, the first 6 matches, just 8 goals.
Wow.
I mentioned the 0-0s kind of going around. I'm not sure really what to attribute that to. Maybe it's, I don't know, the weather a little bit. Maybe the season's starting to grind down a little bit. Maybe it's videotape analysis, catching up with some of these attacks, where a lot of the discussion about this season has been about the newcomers to the league. And not just new signings, but also rookies.
Yeah.
We could be at that point in the season where, the tape is out. We've seen Orlando kind of cool off. KC, who had been on an absolute tear, just a couple goals from them. So not sure what to attribute it to, but I think the defense is stepping up.
Yeah.
Kind of going around this weekend for sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. Coming off an international break, Might be a little bit of chemistry there. Probably all those factors that you mentioned. That's a really good point. And we get to the end of the match. I think in the last few minutes, Seattle had like two more pretty good opportunities. One especially golden opportunity. Huerta serves in a nice cross in the middle. It falls to the youngster Adamas, but she gets her shot blocked. And that was at like 90 plus 5. As it's going in, I could hear people in the press box going, "That's going to be a goal." Like, it looked nearly certain. I just couldn't punch it in at the end. So we get the draw. We go to the press conference. We talk to our pal Laura, and she pretty much says largely those same things. I mean, just showing quality in the final third. And she said something to the effect of, "I thought defensively we were good. We were solid at times." And then she went on to say, "We need the quality in the final third to be as good as that defensive quality in these kinds of matches if we're gonna start winning," which I think was a pretty salient point. The thing I wanted to throw to you is that we talked about Seattle's backup goalkeeper, Laurel Ivory, and how impressive she looked through some of those stretches, especially when she was getting some shots fired at her during this rough stretch for the Reign. When asked about Claudia Dickey coming back, Laura Harvey said she came for the cross as well. She talked about how she was aggressive and was able to go out there and get the ball. But then she said, "It will be good for her and Laurel to compete again." And that was just a little bug in there. Looking forward for the rest of the season. I think Dickey's a good keeper. I think Ivory showed a lot of things too. So I'm going to put that in my file of things to watch for.
Interesting. I mean, it's a couple of starter level keepers.
Yeah.
Kind of good problem to have. And I think it's not quite the same as the quarterback issue in the NFL, where it's like, where does the locker room? I think your goalkeeper is kind of like a singular type position. What they do kind of reverberates out a little bit, but not quite the same. We could just be in store for good old fashioned goalkeeper competition.
I like it. I thought you were gonna pull it out. What, I don't know, Dino. Can you educate me and perhaps maybe some of our pals over in Europe? In the NFL, if you think you might have two quarterbacks, how many do you have?
You don't have anybody.
There we go. Love a good NFL cliche over here in the USA. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's more of a good problem for Seattle.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, looking at like a team like a Chelsea, where you got Musovic and Hannah Hampton and Katrin Berger for a minute. They were doing okay. Yeah. I think they not a problem that I think kept them up. Okay, so that's something that we'll definitely keep an eye on. Last thing on this Reign team, Leanne Sanderson also touched on this last week as well. You just kind of feel like institutionally, infrastructure-wise, this is a solid team with a solid DNA and persona.
Yep.
And they're just dying for, we'll get to Washington here in a second and what Croix Bethune did in the dying seconds of that one. They're just dying for one or two of those matches where they eke out a 3 points that was just 50-50 on the table, totally gettable. And it just seems like pretty consistently this Reign side just kind of falls short of making some late magic. And, we see not just the great teams, we see good teams kind of pull out these types of moments. Just doesn't seem to have happened for the Seattle side just yet.
For sure. Let me hit you with two lasts, because you absolutely nailed it. I mean, I know for a fact, speaking of Father's Day, you're hanging with the kiddo. I know you didn't watch Laura Harvey's press conference, but when you're talking about like that DNA, Laura Harvey mentioned like some of those matches, like she talked about the 2 goals in 90 seconds by Kansas City Current. She said, and I quote, about some of the players, quote, "They could turn up and never want to play soccer again after some of those mistakes," because obviously Laura Harvey not pleased with some of the mental mistakes on those plays. But then she came back and said, "But this squad doesn't lack character." And she talked about their togetherness and that kind of resilience. But I also want to go one more layer into what she was talking about, because she did the manager/coach thing. She talked about quality. She talked about finishing in the final third. And she dropped in a little extra in there saying, "You guys have heard me say it multiple times this year." And okay, totally editorial reporting without doing the reporting style. I'm sitting in the rooms, whatever. I'm watching all the games, of course. That's what we do here. The transfer window is coming up in August 1st. And I just think that when Laura Harvey keeps saying, we're just missing that little bit of quality in the final third, could she possibly be saying, we got to go out and buy it? Because I don't have it on this roster consistently.
I think that's on the money. And, at some point, you still have to put forward some moves to kind of elevate the team. If you think about, extra revenue from playoffs, I'm not sure all of the specifics around the revenue sharing and everything that's going on, but you have to imagine the gate, revenue from playoffs. I mean, these are all very, very important things. The Reign still kind of sniffing around that area. Going into this weekend, there was 7 teams between 12 and 17 points. So I think the back half of the playoff race, maybe the last 2 or 3 spots, I think are going to be pretty up for grabs.
If there's one thing we like talking about here, it's the transaction season, baby. So I'm very interested in that August 1 window opening up. If I could hit you with the last and final thing on this, the press conference ends. Laura Harvey's walking out. One of the reporters, shout to them for doing this, goes, "Who's winning the Euros?" And Harvey almost stops in her track and goes, "I didn't see the England score. What was the England score?" Because obviously, England-Serbia was at noon, I think, out here, and the Reign match kicked off at 1. Somebody told her 1-0, England over Serbia. Laura Harvey lets out a "yeah," and then walks, as she's walking out of the press room, goes, "It's coming home." So shout to Laura.
Oh, that's great. I love that. What a G. All right. Well, maybe next time you're in the building, take it easy on old Laura, because she's obviously got some.
I know. I'm sure she's real pressed about my hard hitting questions.
Let's switch gears to the KC Current team you just mentioned. They hosted Chicago Red Stars. KC goes down a goal, and they come back, score 2 unanswered. Then they give up a late goal to one Sam Staub, 90th minute. That one goes 2-2. Anything stick out with this one? I've got some stuff on KC, but I'm curious to see if anything from this match caught your attention.
It's awesome that you score a lot. You got to stop conceding so much. I may be acting like an old man or a curmudgeon here. If you score 2 goals, that should be good enough to win. And if you are defending a corner kick at the death of the match, then you want to be able to stop that. I mean, a corner kick, obviously there are teams that are good at that kind of thing. Sam Staub's an excellent player. It was a good finish. But, finish the game, bro, is kind of like what you yell at your TV at that moment. So, they've given up 19 goals this season. It's the most of any team in the top 5, and it's tied with, coincidentally, the Chicago Red Stars, who sit at 6th of the table in terms of 19 goals conceded. So you're good enough to win the league. You got to figure out a way to stop letting so many in, though.
I want to rewind on that point. I'm glad you kind of phrased it that way, because their 19 goals allowed this season, good for roughly 9th or 10th in the league.
Yeah.
Now, I went back a couple seasons here. Last season, the Wave, who won the Shield, were 2nd best in the league with regard to goals allowed. Gotham wins the Cup. They were tied for 4th fewest. So now you've got KC, 9th, 10th. Not good. Rewind one more season, 2022. Your Reign won the Shield with the fewest goals allowed, number 1 with a bullet, and then the Thorns win the Cup with the 3rd fewest allowed. So this tells me that this Kansas City Current team defensively does not have the profile of a team that can win the title, win either title. Now, you look a little closer, 19 real goals allowed. XG-wise, they're at 12.1, a massive difference.
Interesting.
12.1 is good for best in the league with regard to XG allowed. So a massive gulf there, better than Gotham, better than Orlando. That tells me that this KC side, to your point about the Sam Staub header, no shade at Sam Staub, they're getting beat by pretty low probability stuff.
Yeah.
Now, is that fixable? Is that something that's trend? Is that something that, might continue? Is it strategic? Is it tactical? I'm not sure that we know, but what we do know is they're letting a lot of goals in, and that XG aside does not fit the profile of a championship team.
Do you mean to tell me that defense wins championships?
Did you just make that up?
That just came to me, man. It's fucking stroke of genius.
Shit, that's really good.
No, those numbers are rad, dude. Obviously the Reign has defense in their DNA pretty much through the history of the program. So I was aware when they won the Shield, they had a great defense. I was not that aware, even thinking about like Gurma and Kalen Sheridan for the Wave. Those are great numbers, man. I mean, it is a silly cliche. If you don't let the other team score, it's hard for them to beat you.
100%. It's near impossible. Do you think? Well, I mean, you've seen this KC Current side. I think we're 13-ish games in, still undefeated.
Yeah.
So they're sitting on 8 wins, 5 draws. But there is just some, it happens quite often. Offensively, when you're too reliant on offense, there's going to be one day, one off day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you might have a Bia off day. You might have a Temwa Chawinga off day. You might have a Dabinha off day or a DiBernardo. Obviously, she gets subbed off with a pretty nasty knock in this one.
Yeah.
But it does happen, especially in knockout football. You know, 2 of your big 3, 2 of your big 4, 3 of your big 4 sometimes have an off day. And that's enough to just end the whole thing. On one hand, offensively, they're explosive, super potent, but I just have seen it too many times. You're live by the O, kind of die by the O kind of thing, where you just know that it's coming. Probabilistically, statistically, there's going to be a game where 2 of your big guns it's not their day.
Yeah, great point. And, I really like Adriana Franch. She had a good run where she was the second keeper behind Nair for the U.S. Women's National Team.
Mm-hmm.
So she's 10th in the league in clean sheet percentage, obviously in a 14-team league. Kind of okay. Now, she's second in the league, though, tied with Kaylin Sheridan. They each have 36 saves this season. But now we look at save percentage. Kaylin Sheridan sitting at third in the league with an 80% save percentage. And looking at this top 10, 80 Franch, not listed. So I think, what you're talking about, some of these low percentage opportunities that are squeaking by her, that happens at the wrong time. And now you fall 4 points behind in the table, or you just get knocked out of a cup match.
Absolutely. I want to shift gears to Orlando here.
Sure.
Orlando, they obviously draw at North Carolina. We actually previewed this one, hanging out with our guy John at the Loud and Proud podcast.
Oh, yeah.
When asked about my prediction, I think my logic was if we score 2, we win. If we score 1, we probably win. And lo and behold, we scored. We scored 0. They also scored 0. Everybody goes home. We found the draw. I snuck that in for you, by the way. I'm sure you noticed it. But Orlando, they do profile as a team that defensively can lock down. Now, my question around the Pride, obviously Emily Sams, she's playing at an all-league type level. Shout out to ESPN's Jeff Kassoff, who had Sams 11th in his MVP tracker. So a little shine Emily's way. We appreciate that. But I found myself wondering, does this Orlando team need a second elite offensive attacker? You look at KC, you got Bia and Chawinga. You look at Washington, they've got Rodman, Sarr, Bethune. They've got 3 elite attackers. Sophia Smith is so elite. Her playmaking is at a level where if you're just running next to her, you all sort of kind of become an elite attacker.
Pretty much.
And obviously they do have skilled players up front as well in Portland. But I was kind of finding myself wondering after watching this one, Banda, she's obviously amazing. Marta got some chances. I don't know if Marta's like that full-time solution there. She started this one up top with Banda.
Yeah.
She had some looks. She got really close. Had we gotten the goal, I think we walk away with 3 points, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
It was the exact type of match that I expected. Courage kind of wanted to drag it into the mud. 0-0 is exactly what we got. But do you think there's something to Orlando needing a second attacker that kind of has ascended to all league, type conversation? These are sort of like upper echelon. I know Orlando has a lot of really good offensive attacking players, and it's sort of second banana by committee, essentially. Like, all right, it's Julie Doyle or it's Ali Watt or it's Summer Yates. There's a lot of, passing the rock, which is great. But, offensively, you just kind of wish that there was somebody that could reach somewhat the level of dynamism of a Barbara Banda.
I think this is the classic team sports question. I think you're right on it. And it's funny because as you're asking me the question, before you even got to those names, I was trying to go through the Rolodex. I was like, well, you got Ali Watt, you got Julie Doyle. Obviously, you have Marta, you have Summer Yates. Adriana can score for you if needed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do you need that second player to just be a little better than that other list of players? Maybe, but at the same time, if you have the outright, flatly best player in the league, then I think in a cup match, in an elimination match, you gotta like your chances with Banda out there. So there's absolutely something to what you're saying, and I don't think they'll be shy looking in the transfer window. I mean, they have Grace Chanda coming, Banda's Zambian national team teammate. I don't think they're going to be shy. And when you name those other players, like you named Bia and Chawinga, they still have DiBernardo on Kansas City as well. And then you mentioned the trio of Rodman, Sarr, Bethune. I think Orlando has to realize they're in an arms race. I think they do exactly what you're suggesting and probably go look for that player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dabinia as well in KC. You forget how really, really good she is.
Awesome.
She definitely showed it this past weekend. A couple other quick stats on Orlando. Their shot on target percentage this year, 36%. Their last 3 matches, though, 22, 66, and 26, which means their ability to put it on frame kind of trending down a little bit. I'm not sure if that's, again, like we mentioned, defense is potentially catching up. The one saving grace, though, defensively, 11 goals allowed now in 13 matches. That's second in the league to Gotham, and that's with Rafaele missing 6 matches. You expect to get her back, and then maybe this defense gets even stronger from there. So it could be, for a team like this to kind of go deep, potentially all the way. It's probably Bonda, a full season of her just bossing. The defense just doing what that defense has done all season. And then essentially maybe a rotation of one of those secondary players, maybe a Chanda coming in, maybe somebody that they haven't signed yet, coming on and kind of like playing that 1B role to Bonda, elevating Orlando just to the very top of the league. We'll see.
And if you're Orlando, we'll talk about them soon, but if you're Orlando, you have to be looking at Washington Spirit also and go, oh yeah, Lacey Santos is coming over to that squad too.
Mm-hmm. And a coach, I think, that's done a thing or two.
He's been all right.
Let's talk about Washington. A little bit of drama in that one. Where should we get started?
So this one, I thought it felt a little bit like a tale of two halves. I love describing a football match like that. In the first half, San Diego Wave had nearly 60% of the ball. In the second half, Spirit had 54% of the ball, and they outshot San Diego 11-4. They had 5 shots on target to San Diego's 1, including a big one. They had 2 big chances. San Diego had 0. They had more accurate passes, and they were even on corners. I just felt like the Spirit, they just have so many good, smart players who are dedicated to playing on both ends of the field that there is an element of them just wearing you down throughout a match too. It is not surprising that the GOAT Leanne Sanderson, who graced us with her presence on this pod, picked them to possibly win the whole league.
I mean, we talked about those 3 forwards that they have, or those 3 kind of attacking players, Bethune, Rodman, and Sarr. Casey Kruger, we'll get to her a little bit later in some more detail, but she was great, and it's almost like she knows what she's got up the field. So she wants to, in a very responsible way, win back the ball, get the ball upfield, because that is the formula. There's something also to the 3 different profiles for their 3 main attackers, Bethune, Rodman, and Sarr.
Yes.
Sarr is obviously clinical finisher, very dangerous, very slippery. Rodman is just go. She's just going to wear you down is the perfect phrasing for what she's going to do to a defense. And athletically, she's just phenomenal. She's just off the charts. I mean, I think she can run with anybody. She's powerful. She's got a nasty streak, which you love. And then you've got Croix Bethune. I don't know, a little bit of like Nile Crocodile vibes, where she's just lurking, like she's just waiting for a ball to spill into the wrong place, and you just see her accelerate in a way where it's just like, oh, she's hungry right now. Like she sees something, she's going for something, and then it feels like most of the rest of the match she's just kind of coolly gliding, into where she's supposed to be until a door just slightly creaks open. So I just love the balance of the different types of attacking players that Washington's got.
1,000,000,000% cosign on Rodman. I mean, she's absolutely one of my favorite players in women's football. I love that you have a player like you're talking about. She draws fouls. When she decides that she's getting to her spot, she just gets to her spot. Like nobody is keeping up with her. When she wants to get the ball right on the end line and serving across, that's what she'll do. If she wants to cut it inside, you're so terrified that she's going to get to the end line to serve in a dangerous cross that she's like, oh, sorry, this time I'm cutting inside and now I'm going to have a go myself or try to play in another pass. She's just a devastating attacking player who still will run back and get blocks and interceptions and deflections, and she's just got to be a nightmare to play against, and just probably a joy to play with, because here you have this superlative athlete who is a superstar and still has the guts and the responsibility to go back and get back on defense.
Love her game, and I think that Spirit team kind of feels like they've got everything. Like it's going to be a long season, a lot more football to play, but the more I look at it, for power ranking, very American style power ranking, power ranking, I think it'd be tough not to put the Spirit up in that number 1 spot. they've got a couple different. I mean, we're going to talk about MVP candidates a little bit later this week. They've got a couple different MVP candidates just simmering, on that squad, and I think they're going to be really, really tough. They're going to be a tough out this season.
Absolutely. Can we talk more about Croix Bethune?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay.
I'm always ready.
So we know what happened at the end of the match. Anybody who's watching this is aware of what happened at the end of the match. I want to talk about what happened in the 9th minute when Gabby Carl takes the ball off of Lundqvist and then plays the ball into the box. Bethune is obviously a rookie, drafted number 3 this year. And when the ball is coming in, Abby Dahlkamper, a player who has several U.S. women's national team caps, has been an excellent defender for quite a while. Dahlkamper knows, I have to get here for the block because Bethune has the skill to one-time this into the corner of the net, and even Sheridan won't have a chance to stop it. But Bethune knows that Dahlkamper knows that. So Dahlkamper runs in and plays for the block and the angle. And Bethune sells it so brilliantly. She runs in and looks like she's going to try to one-time shot, but then all she's doing is planting her foot and then turning to her left and following the ball to then give herself a left-footed strike, which she murders, and it unfortunately hits off the post. And I can tell you, as a guy who spent a fair amount of time playing defensive midfielder and stopper, right back, all those kind of defensive positions, the feeling when you are running, you are going one direction, and then the attacking player has deked you and is going the other direction of the ball, and you're like, oh no! Like that is a bad feeling. And when it's Croix Bethune, I thought for sure she was going to score it. That's what I love about sports right there. That chess game, and then being able to execute it in like a second and a half.
Such a great move. Shades of what she did right at the death as well, with that brilliant touch, moment of majesty to kind of like claw out a point here at home. I think they mentioned on the broadcast San Diego was looking for their first road win. They were just about there.
Yep.
I love checking the time here. There were 39 seconds left in added time.
Oof.
6+ on the clock. They're at 95-21 when the ball hits the back of the net. I thought this was a riveting matchup.
Yep.
Trying to watch Girma and Sheridan just not know where things are coming from all the time against Washington. And, Girma, I think she put that ball ahead to Lundqvist in the 9th minute that you were talking about. And then also kind of really involved in that final play where, great players, what can you say? Croix Bethune is a great player. The ball in the highest leverage moments, I don't know how it happens, just seems to find these great players. The touch that she put on that last ball does the same thing that you're mentioning. She knocks it away from Girma. All Girma could do is just full stretch slide, nowhere near it. Yeah. I mean, it's a touch to kind of like, she just knows the ball's in there. She just knows, all right, if I could move the ball into this space on the field, there's no defending what's going to happen. She does exactly that on a ball just redirected by Dahlkamper as well. Kruger's ball off of Dahlkamper's head, and Bethune is just able to corral it in midair, put it exactly where she wants it, and then the finish. I'm kind of having trouble remembering the finish exactly because the touch prior was just absolute. All my brain keeps replaying is the first touch, not like the actual goal. But I do know that she just smoked it into the net, and again, just such a flair for the dramatic.
100%, and I got you covered here, buddy. So, because you're spot on about the first touch. The first touch is absolutely majestic. Which the way she chests it down, and you're right. Girma has no chance to get to it. So she's moving to her left, and she kind of has the same thing where Sheridan, because Sheridan is such a great goalkeeper, she knows, oh crap, I have the entire left side of me is the face of the goal. And I know Bethune can score on that. So I have to protect that. And in that split second where she stops and you see Bethune, she has the ball under complete control on the ground. She turns, you could tell she recognizes like, oh yeah, Sheridan knows she has to protect the broad face of the goal. And then she just drills it past her near post and frozen goalkeeper situation on the best goalkeeper in the league.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do more of this because I know in a few episodes ago when we talked about this, I compared Croix Bethune's style of play to Lionel Messi because that's just who I am as a person. It is a character flaw. I know I go way over the top because I love this stuff and I get excited about things. So sue me. But let me ask you, some other questions here. Croix Bethune is 5'2", a bit of an undersized number 10. And I'm going to try not to make this all about height. Daniela Vanderdonk is 5'3", and she's a genius passer, and she's tough, and she plays big in big moments. Let's switch over to the men's game. What about Phil Foden, who's like 5'7"? What about Luka Modric, who's like 5'8", and for my money, one of the best number 10s of the last 20 years, without an argument? I think, in my mind, absolutely. I think a lot of people will be like, yeah, duh, Modric. What about Rose Lavelle, who's 5'4" and is an engine who can pass and shoot? Or what about Aitana Bonmati, who's 5'3", just like Bethune, and is a genius passer and can rip shots at 1,000,000 miles an hour? I'm not saying that Bethune is going to be Bonmati. I'm saying I think she could absolutely be Vanderdonk. I'm saying she could absolutely be an equivalent to like a Phil Foden type player in the women's game. And if that's the case, you nailed it weeks ago. If she ends up being better than Rodman, which I think is very live, and we've already talked about how much we love Rodman, we're looking at a super team.
I agree with that. I try not to put takes forward that I don't fully believe in, but as I'm as these ideas are formulating in my head, I understand that there's some probability that I could be just way, way off, which happens quite often. But with that one, Bethune is like exceeded, what we're talking about. We started the season talking about, okay, rookie of the year, there's Ali Sentnor, there's Croix Bethune, a couple other players, a couple of second round picks actually too that were sort of in the neighborhood. That's over.
Done.
Now, Croix Bethune firmly in the MVP discussion.
Let's go.
Like in Washington in full contention. She's so creative. Her IQ is, I don't know, 99 if we're talking FIFA ratings. I mean, like she just is playing a different game out there. Mm-hmm. And you kind of recontextualize that whole offense.
Yes.
Because like she's not just a part of it. Now, to your point, your Modric point, your Bonmati point, I think like now if she's the focal point and now you're giving her the ball and asking her to say, hey, utilize these weapons, like maximize these weapons, that's very dangerous.
100%, man. And I don't want to get too lost in the sauce here, but Rose Lavelle was a world beater in the 2019 World Cup. Who played next to her in those midfields? It was 5'10", strong Sam Mewis. It was I might have Mewis's height wrong. Apologies if I got that wrong. I think she's in that neighborhood. It's a player with good size like Lindsey Horan. What if you had a couple of young midfielders for the U.S. women's national team, like, I don't know, Lily Johannes and Croix Bethune in your midfield? Now you're lining up Smith, Rodman, Shaw off the bench maybe, Macario, Mal Swanson, Croix Bethune, Lily Johannes. You look at Spain and you say, line them up, let's play.
Absolutely.
we're talking real deal European passing, real football hours, real hoopers know.
Well, what would Spain do collectively? What would happen to the Spain psyche if Croix Bethune scores and breaks out that dice roll celly? Is it just over? Like, do they just zip their shit back up? We're like, all right, thanks y'all. Let's take that silver and get out of here.
If the match were happening in Austin, Texas, I think Spain would have a hard time coming back from that. I think on an international stage, I'm done. You were spot on. You picked Barcelona to win the Champions League. I'm done betting against Spain and Barcelona and all that. But you raise a valid point. I think Spain would have to look across the field and be like, okay, it's going to take a lot. And them saying it's going to take a lot from them is a lot.
100%. I do want to quickly reiterate full cosign on your point. All of a sudden, if you have Lily Johannes, Croix Bethune in the middle of the field distributing, come on. Now all of those weapons become maximum live. Now there's going to be different types of matches come Olympics time. We'll see, but having those two options, that's a nightmare to defend because either of those players can put the ball wherever they want.
Exactly.
I do want to hit one more match from this weekend before we get out of here. Shout out to ESPN. Back in the mix, back in the fold. Yeah. Big surprise, Leanne Sanderson on the call. Gotham. I want to rewind back to our, sort of like Big Four discussion. I think it's kind of roughly time to say Gotham probably in that mix, probably in that big five-fold. Big time win at Louisville. They were suffocated, sort of outclassed in this one, and then Gotham gets the big 2-0 win here.
Gotham walks into Louisville and gets a 2-0 victory. I think you're right. They suffocated them. They had more than 60% of the ball throughout the match. They had more shots on target, several more big chances. Ella Stevens is having herself a nice little run. It looked like Stevens could have had 2 goals and an assist in the first 20 minutes of this one. One goal she had was waved off for offside. She had 1 shot saved. She had a really clever back heel to the aforementioned Rose Lavelle, who drilled a shot that I think rocketed off the post. This lineup had Ella Stevens, Crystal Dunn, Rose Lavelle, Yasmin Ryan, Jenna Nighswonger, Tierna Davidson, Emily Sonnett, and Ann-Katrin Berger in goal. Jeez. And then Mandy Freeman had a great game at right back. I didn't mention Esther Gonzalez and Lynn Williams, who did not appear. They're still on the roster lurking somewhere.
Wow. This team's absolutely going to be dangerous. And, we talked about it when we talked Casey Curran in Orlando. Defense does win championships, to quote the great Grant Engel, who just off the dome threw that one out there. On Katzenberger, how about half a goal per 90 for her? Pretty 4 good. Clean sheets in 8 matches played. And in the 4 matches where Gotham conceded, they gave up, let me check my notes here, 1 goal, 1 goal, 1 goal, 1 goal.
There we go.
You're not outscoring this team. That back 4 that you mentioned, Emily Sonnett, Tierna Davidson, Jenna Nighswonger, and the aforementioned Mandy Freeman, who notches the assist on that Stevens goal. They just win all their duels. And they're really tough, really tenacious, really smart, and they're all really great on the ball.
Yes.
Ball's at their feet. It's a wrap. Just jog back on defense, get reset up because they're not going to give it away. And I think that really, really frustrated this Louisville side.
100%. I mean, I'm a huge Emily Sonnett fan. Obviously, we're familiar with her work from the national team. She played for the Seattle Reign last season. She is just that kind of player who, if things start getting a little hectic, I like that, Sonnett has that dog in her. Like, she will foul the hell out of you when it comes to it. But she also is so good at having the presence of mind of, I'm getting the ball and I'm settling this. Everybody calm down. And then people are like, okay, hey, Emily's telling us to calm down. Let's go ahead and do that. I hearken back to when she transferred or when she signed with Gotham. Bethany Balser from the Reign commented on her Instagram post and said to Emily Sonnett, quote, "Do you remember that time you called me stupid on the field?" And then followed up, "I'll still miss you though." Because that's the kind of player Emily Sonnett is. She might call you stupid on the field because she is such a talented player. She recognizes when you did something stupid, and she's such a leader, she can tell you. But it's coming from a place of, okay, Sonnett knows what happened there. I'll do better next time. But, she seems like a genuinely super cool person, too. You see her joking around with her teammates. Every teammate seems to love Sonnett. So her combined with Davidson, and obviously we'll talk about Jenna Nighswonger, but Mandy Freeman played her ass off in this one, too. So that back 4 plus Berger, they're cooking.
They're just loaded. They're so loaded. Again, I'm kind of fixated on the defense this week. Obviously, only just 8 goals this weekend heading into this Bay FC Utah match. You really see what kind of difference that makes when a team's got a ball in the dangerous area. And I kind of mentioned it. If you could shut down a chance within 2 touches, which this Gotham team just does consistently, it's like, oh, here comes some, DeMello's in a spot, 1 touch, 2 touches, it's over. Like the chances just completely dissipated. It's just such a superpower. You've given up 4 goals in the last 8 matches with Berger back there. It's going to be really, really tough to contend with that. And then just looking at the table, they've already surpassed Portland. They're 2 points ahead in that 4th spot, 4 or 5 points, roughly behind the Spirit and the Pride, with a lot of football left to be played, not an insurmountable lead by any stretch. So I think this team's going to be right up in that mix. They've got to feel great about where they're at. And if they can continue to defend like this and work those offensive players back, I mean, they've got just as good a shot as anybody.
100%. I mean, think about this. Kansas City Current, Orlando Pride, Washington Spirit, Gotham FC, Portland Thorns. One of those teams is not going to host a playoff match.
Wow.
At least in the first round.
How about the 4-5 spot?
Yeah.
Maybe Gotham Thorns first round. I mean,
it's tough.
So that's going to be, big onus on these teams to try to finish near the top as much as they can. You finish in that second spot, now you're looking at 2 potential home games.
It's going to get real hectic at the top, and I think I realize they're 6 points back, the Chicago Red Stars, but I think with Mal Swanson, Sam Staub, they're probably looking around saying, don't count us out just yet. I'm not counting them out of that top 4 race. I think it's going to be a steep hill to climb with those 5 in front of them, though.
Absolutely. They might be another team I'm looking at in this upcoming window because you mentioned those 2, Sam Staub, Mallory Swanson. I think Alyssa Nair is right there as well as with regard to these are foundational pieces that if you could just elevate, the other 7-8 spots on the field, just kind of here and there to open things up, I think it could make a huge difference. But you can kind of see the bones of a really good team in Chicago, but maybe just not, the top end talent all the way through 1 through 11 or 1 through 15 or 16. But we'll definitely keep an eye on them. They're going to be a tough out as well. You get a Swanson game and they could beat any team in the mix on any given day. Anything else you want to hit on this Gotham FC combo?
I think that's it, man. I think they're dangerous. I went back and listened to the preview. We both picked them to win the Shield, but did not pick them to win the Cup. I know I had my doubts personally after kind of the tough start and being like, oh yeah, I guess after every international break, they're going to have to rest a lot of players and how's that going to look and this and that. But I'm glad I didn't sway too wildly to the other side. I don't think either of us did. They're firmly in the mix. They could win the Shield. No doubt.
I agree with that. Game in hand.
Oh yeah.
They win that one. They're just a couple points behind those couple big dogs up top. Quick shout out to Ella Stevens. You mentioned her. Another absolute ice cold goal celly from her after her absolute banger. All right, man. Match week 13. We've got some football being played right here as we speak, but I think we did it. We'll come back maybe on Twitter or later in the week to talk about what we saw. I don't know if anything crazy happened, Utah Bay FC, but for all intents and purposes, match week 13 for your boys, pretty much in the books. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think we did it, man. I think that was comprehensive coverage of the best 5 teams in the league, and then we talked about Seattle Reign also.
Fair enough. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, liking, subscribing, following. Without you, there is really no show, no channel to go into. So thank you for rocking with us. And if you're an OG, thank you for continuing to rock with us. Like Grant mentioned earlier in the pod, we're bringing the heat with regard to guests, not just the takes, not just the heat of the fire that we put these coaches' feet into. Guest-wise, we're bringing it as well. So definitely keep it locked. Remember to like if you liked and subscribe or follow into the channel, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Links to our socials in our show notes. And a big thank you to my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel, for being the Luka Modric, the Daniela Van de Donk, the Rose Lavelle, the Lionel Messi of this podcast. I appreciate you, bro. And a happy Father's Day to my guy.
Of course, likewise, buddy. Happy Father's Day to you. Let me just say, when you rock with Into the Channel, there is no roll of the dice. We're just coming through. We watch the games, bro. We appreciate you guys for watching the games and always chopping it up with us. We will see you guys next time.